Welcome to the short-term show from Blue Ridge, Georgia. We will cover everything you need to know, including buying, holding, managing from a distance, raising rents, renovating, and how to rent it when you are not using your very own vacation home in the North Georgia mountains. For more information on current purchase prices and income data, please visit theshorttermshop.com. Welcome to the Short Term Show special episodes from Blue Ridge. Here we go, Short Term Show from Blue Ridge, episode 2. We're going to talk about what to buy. What is there to buy in this market? What should we buy? What should we stay away from? Yok is a fantastic real estate agent with the Short Term Shop. Dude's a total rock star. Mississippi, born and raised. Or is that not true? Are you originally from Louisiana?
No, I was born in Italy.
Oh, that's right. That's right. But came over here. All right, now I need the whole backstory.
Well, yeah. So born in Italy, and you can probably tell by this accent, I've lived between Mississippi and Georgia my entire life. So yeah, when I was, when I was about 2 years old, we moved back. I spent most of my life in Memphis, Tennessee. I should say most. Part of my life in Memphis, Tennessee, part of it in Starkville, Mississippi, right, and a large chunk of it right here in North Georgia.
Yes, that's where it comes in into the family. Avery's, again, from Starkville, and Yok's family and Avery's family know each other. So anyway, just one small happy family around here at the Short Term Shop. And Lexis, you are a client of the shop, have bought multiple properties with us. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Lexis. As you said, I have 2 properties in Blue Ridge and 2 more in the Pigeon Forge, Sevierville area. And I bought my first house in Pigeon Forge back in 2021 through Derek. So I've been with y'all for a little while.
Cool. And you are a nomad, right? Where are you right now?
I am in Warsaw, Poland, of all places.
Fascinating. And was this on your own free will? You just picked it to go there for a while, or?
Yeah, we tend to bounce around. My husband and I, we work in software engineering, so we get to work from our laptops, which gives us a little bit of flexibility. We got married earlier this year in September and honeymooned in Japan, came back through Helsinki, and we're in Poland. So I'll be back stateside next week for the holiday with Thanksgiving in Arizona. So hopefully I'll have some t-shirts, short weather there.
Love it. Living the life that we all wish we were living. So enjoy every second of it. And the traveling. Anyway, so let's talk Blue Ridge. Where should we, what type of property are we looking for? Obviously, they're cabins here, Yok, but are they going to be a little older? Are they going to be newer? What product are we looking at?
Yeah, so, most of the cabins here, they started building the cabins probably in the late 80s. But what's on the market are going to be a lot of cabins, probably 15 years old or newer. There are going to be some of the older ones that were built in the 90s. And I know a house built in the 90s, that's not that old. But, for us, that kind of starts skewing on the older side. People, want to ask, well, what am I looking for? Yes, you do want the cabin. Okay. The 4-sided brick or the vinyl sided house, not really going to work. People are coming from the city. And, you go to Atlanta and they say, hey, we want to stay in a cabin in Blue Ridge. It's kind of like Xerox and Coke. They kind of own the verbiage of that, cabin in Blue Ridge. That's it. That's the cliche. That's what people want. That's what people expect. We're not, I tell everybody, we're really not a honeymoon destination, and we're not a big corporate retreat destination either. So we don't have a lot of 1-bedrooms. We have some 2-bedrooms. Okay. The 1-bedrooms, it may be 1 bed plus loft. And we don't have a lot of these 6, 7, 8 bedrooms. We don't have multiplexes, duplexes, whatever plexes. We don't really have much of that. So you're looking at 2, 3s, 4s, and 5s, really what we have. But, the 3 bedrooms being kind of the most prevalent. Okay.
Lexis, what did you end up buying, and how was that decision made? Was it based purely on the you like the cabin itself, or were you looking in certain pockets, or how did that go down?
Yeah, great question. I was largely looking for that more like modern, contemporary chalet style type of build. And so that's how we kind of honed in on what we were looking for. The two properties that I have out in Blue Ridge, we purchased, I guess, like a year ago. And so this was, peak demand before interest rates took the turn that they have been. And so to be honest, like we didn't have the wealth of choice that you have nowadays, right? But we got very lucky with the two builds that we have. One of them is 3-build, 3.5 bath, and then the other is 4-bed, 4-bath.
And they were both new?
Yep.
Are they in the same general area, or are they a little bit further from each other?
A little further. So one is in Epworth out west a little bit, and Yok, you can help contextualize this if you want, but that's that one. And then the other one is in Mineral Bluff, about 12 minutes from town.
Both, and she bought two, kind of like she said, the contemporary style. That means a lot of things to a lot of different people, but I call it kind of looks like that modern ski lodge out west, with the single slanted roof, the real mega cool, looks like something out of a magazine. She owns two beautiful properties.
Yeah, there are a lot of, at least seems to me like most of the newer properties in your market, they do look like they could be in Montana.
That's right. And I think that's what attracts a lot of people. I mean, I tell everybody, if you want to find yourself in the 90th percentile, that's where you're going to have to be. That's a lot of these people, that are, a lot of the consumers that are coming from Metro Atlanta, a lot of young, affluent families. And when they're shopping around, man, they want new, they want sexy. And that's it. It's those contemporary style cabins right now that are kind of the pinnacle of ownership. 10 years from now, is that going to still be the style? I don't know. But I can tell you this, with all the custom windows, the light, it is what everybody wants. And they do tend to make a premium over everything else.
And the older ones, are they going to be less expensive? Obviously it depends on the amount of rehab, but is there a price difference in something older?
There can be. There certainly can be. And not necessarily of age, right? It has more to stylistically. So even some of the newer builds, some of them, they're kind of building them in the, I don't want to call them the old style, but they kind of have that rough hewn, flat-sided lumber, on the side, where they're built like the newer ones, but they don't have all the custom windows, and they kind of have more of a traditional shape, but the exterior covering of it may look a little more old school than new school. Are they building the old, what do they call them, the D-log and the round log exteriors? I don't see a ton of that. I see maybe some price point stuff being built like that, but for the most part, right now, everybody's doing the flat. The rough hewn, flat-sided lumber on the side for the most part is where everybody's going right now. The contemporary style has mostly to do, I say, with the interior, with all the custom windows inside to let all that light, where you do feel like you're kind of, in a ski lodge. To me, is what I think of when I see these cabins.
Alexis, do you find that since both of yours are this newer style, that you have an advantage over your enemies? How much are you paying much attention to your enemies, and are you doing better than they are?
I'd like to say I overanalyze all the data and have all these spreadsheets and things, but we've been staying pretty booked, so I don't really have a huge need to go out there and do all of this enemy analysis, at least right now. But we are staying quite booked. I will say the 4-bed property, that was at a $1.1 million purchase price. And then the second was, y'all keep me honest, I think that was at $700 or $699. In terms of ROI, that $699 property has paid off much better. I think once people have a certain baseline of nice, then they're happy with it. And then at that point, it's just bedroom counts. But that property has really been a huge cash cow for us, even in the last 6 months. October through the end of the year, we're almost 100% booked.
Well, listen, I don't want to think anybody start thinking this is some kind of paid advertisement, because that was an amazing, just made everything look wonderful for us here at the short-term shop. But what do you think that is? Because there are folks that are, maybe not doing as well as you in this market. It's not like a low-hanging fruit type of a market. You do need to put in some effort. What do you think is setting your properties apart? I think it's really knowing your customer, knowing who you're catering to, and building the house around that. So our larger house, right? It's a little bit further away from town. It's about a 25 minute drive, something like that. And the drive up is not super ideal. It's got a really steep driveway going up to it. And I say all that to say, once people get there, sometimes they want to hunker down. And so we really doubled down on making the house part of the experience.
We've got 1 gigabit Wi-Fi there on fiber, so people can work from there pretty easily if they're traveling through, or it's a family that's staying for an extended time and mom or dad wants to work. We have things like a Peloton there, which does get
you have a
used.
Peloton. Hold on.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Because I desperately want to put a Peloton tread in one of mine.
Oh, nice.
And I just have it because I'm a big runner, and I've got a house, our main house in East Tennessee, which we go to often. The running there just kind of stinks, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, there are actually really good pockets. I don't want to, if you're a runner, I'm not saying don't go to East Tennessee. There are some fantastic areas, but I got to drive to them, and I have young kids, and I don't usually have the extra 20 minutes worth of driving in the morning to spend. So I've kicked that around. So tell me about the Peloton. I guess give me your Peloton system. I'm sure you've got some sort of system, and how does it function with the guests?
Yeah. I pay for the monthly digital fee for it, which I don't remember right now, but I think it's $40 a month or something. And the little label tape, I put the username and password on that just in case people sign out or try to go into their own account. So it's always available if people want to log in and use it. And then on the other side, I can go back and check how much people are actually using it, which tends to be about 8 to 10 times a month. And I like checking the data and actually looking at it there, because people may or may not tell you that they're booking the place for the Peloton, right? You have to actually go in and see if it's being used. And that's probably a driving factor for some people, that if they're going to spend a week there, they want to be able to get exercise, move around, and be active a lot of times.
8 to 10 times a month.
Yeah.
I'm shocked by that. I have I have yoga mats and little dumbbells, just like like a 5-10 pound dumbbells in all of my houses. The last 2 of my houses that I was in most recently, the yoga mat still has the plastic wrap on it. Nobody's using it at all, which
Wow.
I'm shocked by that as well, because I do yoga every morning. I have to. I mean, I'm getting up there, the gray hair is coming in, and if I don't do yoga, I mean, even just like 4 or 5 minutes, because crazy hectic with the kids and everything, I can't do a whole class generally. But 5 minutes, or I just do not feel like a human. And so I went out, and actually what it was we stayed in a vacation home, and it was in Colorado. It was a little townhouse, and they had a yoga mat, and I was like, this is the greatest thing. And actually the house was a kind of a dump. It was really not that nice. I don't know how she picked it. Avery, the boss, picked it. And, but in the corner there it was a yoga mat. I'm like, this is amazing. And my kids do yoga with me too in the morning, and crawl all over me, and they have their own mats. But anyway, that's good to hear. I'm going to look into that. Do you think the treadmill would be as successful as the bike? Do you have any thoughts there? I'm assuming you.
I would love a treadmill. This one's the bike. The only thing I would think about is liability and making sure you're protected there. And maybe this is in my head. I feel like the treadmill might be a little riskier. The stationary bike, it's a little bit harder to hurt yourself on that, I think. But I love treadmills. I love fancy treadmills. There's a difference between the Rolls Royce of treadmills versus your average Walmart pickup.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. We're Peloton fans. I mean, I lived in New York City for a really long time, and we had SoulCycle, which was like the first big spin studio. And then of course there's all these franchises now, but huge fan. Do you have, and again, I don't want to get into legal territory here. And we're way off topic, which is fine. Do you have some sort of insurance or something for the bike?
We just have general umbrella across the properties. So umbrella liability that covers us through all of them. And of course,
rental agreement. Do they sign something?
Yep. We have rental agreements as well.
So it's in the rental agreement. Okay.
Yep.
All right. And then no legal advice.
Yes, no legal advice. It's it's up to everybody what their level of comfort is, and even the exercise equipment, right? I don't think it's something for everybody, but for the people that really want it and choose it, I think it does stand out. There's even, how Peloton people can be. There's a whole website of people looking for short-term rentals that specifically have Pelotons, and I got on that. So if you go with the treadmill, word of advice. Yeah.
You've got me. I mean, I'm usually actually kind of a less is more guy. You get a lot of these houses today that they're just like so many freaking amenities. It's like, where's this going to stop?
Yeah.
But you did get me excited about this. I could get on board with this at least the ones that I go to the most often. That would be really cool. So anyway, where were we? What were we talking about?
Luke, I think the moral of the story is pretty simple here. The Blue Ridge market, like I said, we've only got 2,200 cabins to rent, and where you can carve yourself out and create some uniqueness. I mean, that's where you're going to make your money. That's where you go from the 50th percentile to the 75th percentile. It is, again, it's just that extra 1% of effort or amenities. Having something unique is going to push you over the top. Don't have a ton of competition here, in terms of amenities. So it really is a place where if you put in that extra care and effort, like Lexis did, I mean, when we were shopping for houses, we were pretty deliberate. She wanted something that was A, going to be turnkey, and B, stand out from the crowd. And she did that, and, we talked about it earlier about the grandma's big brown cabin. It is not what she bought. She bought the opposite of that. And, if you want to make that money that everybody else isn't doing, you better own something that everybody else doesn't own.
This isn't an area where there's, I know there's the one down by Ellijay, but are there like short-term rental specific neighborhoods with amenities in the neighborhood?
Not at all. We really don't have that. No real swim tennis or anything like that. And even the Kusawati, which is down Kusawati River Resort, which is down in Ellijay, they don't really, it's short-term rental friendly, but even their amenities, they don't make it easy for guests to be in, quite frankly. You get a punch card with 6 or 8 visits to the pool per year. So that means a family of 8 could go once a year, and that's it. Like, that's period, the end. Then you have to pay for another card. So they really kind of keep that for homeowners. But to be honest with you, it's not like Florida or, some of these other places where they're renting a place for a swimming pool. We've got very few cabins that have them, very few tennis courts, anything like that. So it's not really, not really a thing here.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. Are there any swimming pools? And it sounds like pretty much no.
Man, I know one guy that has one in Mountaintops, and my understanding is in 2021, he made $400,000 a year off a 6-bedroom. It's 5-bedroom plus a pool house, and he paid for his cabin in 2.5 years. Purchase price of $1.1 million.
So why wouldn't I just put in a pool?
You can. You can. I mean, it's definitely, I have sold a house with a pool. I think it was an 8-bedroom. We don't have a lot of them. It could definitely separate yourself, but it's kind of hard to do, right? You buy a house, you've got geological issues to build. This one, they were very deliberate when they built this house. It has an infinity edge pool kind of going off the mountain. It's it looks like something in, Better Homes and Gardens, but if you can do it, it's a great place to do it. You will be in the 1 percentile, 1% of 1%, probably.
Got it.
But again, not an expectation. Okay. For when I want that to be clear. When people come up here, a swim pool is not an expectation of renters.
Well, and listen, I probably shouldn't say this. I have a few pools and they're a pain in the ass. I mean, they do. Yeah. They just are, I like them. I'm glad I have them because the kids really love them when we go. But man, they are a lot of work. What about location here? Lexis, you mentioned one of yours has a big windy road. Is that normal and has it affected your rentals?
Good question. I think for that house in particular, I lead with telling people exactly like it is, right? So I state the reality on the listing description itself. So maybe some people filter out then and there, but I say that, in good weather, like a sedan makes it just perfectly, and that helps people understand the situation. But yeah, it might have an impact. The other house, the 3-bed in Mineral Bluff, it's an easy drive. It's a couple minutes off the main road, fully paved up to the last little bit, and they have to go up a couple 100 feet that, there's no scary drop-offs or anything like that. So that one's pretty straightforward. Yok, you can probably speak to like the distribution of scary drives versus not. But
yeah, let's hear about that. How is there a percentage of nasty drives or?
Very few, to be honest with you. And it's hard for me to say because, I can whip my Subaru around anywhere in the mountains, right? Like I bought my vehicle specific for being a realtor in Blue Ridge, to do my job. But I do have to kind of, I pretend I'm Florida man. If I'm Mama Bear coming up from Florida, am I going to appreciate this drive? And it's hard for me to kind of sometimes, I probably undersell or oversell the difficulty of a drive, because the last thing I want is a client showing up and going, holy crap, this is scary. But to be honest with you, I don't think even Lexis will say hers. That's kind of all the one in Epworth. It's not a scary drive at all. I mean, it's flat. And matter of fact, your cabin is at the bottom of the neighborhood. So, and Luke, I'm going to put air quotes on neighborhood. There's what, 9 houses there? 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like that.
So we're calling that a neighborhood. Hers is the first one in, so it's kind of at the bottom of the hill. But again, it's a flat drive, but you just go down this little, road on the side of a cow pasture, literally what it is. The only time it gets scary is when you got some, oncoming traffic. And some of the locals can, they don't tend to share the road as well as you would like, but different conversation. But no, for the most part, I tell everybody, we're going to find you a property that you can get in there in your Honda Civic or your loaded down Honda Odyssey.
Okay. And again, locals, people that are familiar with mountains, you get used to it. Are there any condos in the area?
No, we really don't. We really don't have any multiplexes or anything like that. So here again, it's 2, 3s, 4s, and 5 bedrooms. That's really going to be the bread and butter. So,
no townhomes either?
No. Okay. I mean, there's some in the city, but you can't rent them.
Got it. Speaking of, are there HOAs, and are there ones that you can't rent in?
Yes. So yes and yes. There are HOAs. Matter of fact, most of the properties you're going to find are going to be in an HOA. And I tell everybody, in Florida, HOA is like a dirty word. But here, quite frankly, I know nobody wants to pay the money, but they maintain the roads for you, and they make sure you have water. 2 things that are absolutely critical when you're owning a cabin. You need, you can't, I tell people that the HOA is designed for a few reasons. Number one is to make sure everybody, you kind of pass the hat to make sure the well is running, so you don't have sole ownership and the sole responsibility of a well. It makes your life a lot easier. It also, same thing with, if you have a gravel road, it's part of, pass the hat for the maintenance and grading of the road. And the third thing is to make sure your little community or your little neighborhood remains what it is, right? You don't want the trailer hood popping up behind you. So, they do have architectural control. They're going to make sure that people don't paint their cabin purple, but they're also going to make sure that, the lot in front of you doesn't turn into an RV park either. So they're all there for good reasons.
You mentioned water. Well water, pretty common, or city water?
Yeah. 99% of it's well. Some of the, I'm starting to see some more community water heading, going into Morganton, going up toward McKaysville, some of the stuff just off the highway, especially on the east side of the road. They're starting to get some community water in there. Honestly, I think, if, you change your filters out in your system, in my opinion, our well water tastes better than the community water. I personally have not had bad experiences. I've had experiences with a bad well, but on the whole, the water, if your filtration works right, you got a pressure tank and the water gets circulated ever so often, you shouldn't have too big of a problem. But I think the community water, the county water is pretty, but you do kind of have a little more reliability, I guess.
Just to speak on that subject a little bit, because a lot of folks aren't familiar with well water, and I've only got, I think, 3 wells right now, which is crazy. I've had way more than that in years past. But if I had to pick, like if I had the exact same house side by side, well water or city water, it would be a difficult decision. It would, because I think I would lean towards the well, just slightly. That way, I'm in control. Mother Nature's in control, obviously. But man, those water bills, they can get annoying sometimes too. I don't know. It's kind of it's a weird trade-off where if you replace your filters, get everything where it needs to be, and you have a nice well pump, you generally don't have to think about it for, could be 5-10 years, hopefully, knock on wood. But that water bill is going to come in every month, so.
I've had a $600 water bill in Pigeon Forge. So,
$600?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Why? Was there a leak?
Yep. Toilet running. Couple toilets running, actually. And I didn't know. So I've got like in Pigeon Forge, they have like a water monitoring thing that you can do online. So I got that all set up. But of course, that was after the fact, after the water had run. So
yeah, but they only call you until you've used like 20,000 gallons, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And at that point, it's a little too late. So
yeah, I actually had that same thing happen to me in one of my houses. Not as bad as that. It was $200. It's not a rental. We have a house in the woods that we take the kids occasionally, and I got a $200 water bill. I'm like, there hasn't been anybody here in a month and a half. What is this? And so they found, there was something running, and I'm actually looking into a monitor now. There's on Amazon, there's several options. Kohler makes one that'll actually even turn your water off to the home automatically. Well, you can push a button and it'll turn it off. You have to have it worked into the plumbing. So you're definitely going to want to call a licensed plumber to do that one. Or there's another one that, give me a second, I'll think of the name. It just straps to your meter. Now you'd have to have a meter. So if you got a well, like, what we were talking about before, again, but the well water's not going to cost you. Anyway, that's a whole kind of worms there.
Luke, and again, talking about the HOAs, again, people kind of, maybe if you're from Florida and you know how much HOAs cost, sometimes they're, $300 to $900 a month for a lot of these places, and even more. Here, you're usually talking between $300 and $900 a year. So I don't want people to think like this is a significant cost.
Right.
Again, you're not paying for a monument on the front of the, neighborhood. You're paying for things you use and that need to be maintained. It's not a slush fund for somebody.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that back up. Yeah. So, and Flume is the name of that, the water meter that straps to your, water sensor that straps to your meter, and your phone will get a notification. Hey, you got a leak, I haven't tried it. I'm actually looking into it right now. I'm leaning towards the Flume over the Kohler, but we are, again, way, way in the weeds. Lexis, how did you discover this market in general? Are you familiar with the area? Do you have an affinity to the area?
I do now, but no, I think at the time I was looking to scale up a little bit more, and the Smokies was, a tough market and hyper competitive, and Blue Ridge was sitting there and a little bit more available. And that's how we started looking into it. And, North Georgia is a different vibe than East Tennessee, right? It's two different types of people that often go to both places. And so given the type of house that I was looking for with like more modern contemporary style, at the time, there were a lot of builds coming around in Blue Ridge with that style. And the first house that I bought in Pigeon Forge, that was a 1994 build where I did go through and do all the remodel and all the work, which I recommend everybody take on at some point because you learn a lot about a lot of things doing that. But it was nice to be able to get something a little bit more turnkey in Blue Ridge. That said, turnkey doesn't mean all the time that you could walk in and run it out the next day, right? There's still a lot of work to put in, to customize things, to set it up and get it working well with what you want to offer to your guests. And then also, I'm passionate about making sure all the tech stuff works well. And I've got all my same gadgets for the same apps, so I don't have to have 3 different lock apps and, Wi-Fi things and all that. So
can I ask you a question, Lexis? Since you had mentioned it, you have your house in Tennessee, your property in Tennessee, and you have the ones in Blue Ridge. What do you see are the big differences in the clientele?
Great question. I will say the clientele in Pigeon Forge with the older house, just generally, they're harder to work with. Not every time. The Verbo guests, they're usually a little bit easier to please, but Airbnb paired with a slightly older home is often not a great mix, and it takes a lot of work.
Wow, look at you going out on a limb, throwing Airbnb under the bus. Okay, all right, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't say anything. Go ahead.
No. I mean, Airbnb works well for me in Blue Ridge, so I'll say that much. I think, I'm oversimplifying here to a large degree, but oftentimes you're going to get a younger crowd with Airbnb. You're going to get people that demand a little bit more. And so I actually in Blue Ridge, I do a large amount through Airbnb. I'd probably say 75 to 80%. But I also try to build things in place to make my life easier. I have a demanding W-2 job that takes a lot of my time. And so I offer like a 15% weekly discount because I like to get those week-long bookings. And for a lot of people, it doesn't matter, but I find that usually the most legwork I have with a guest is within the first 24 hours that they check in. They want to know how something works, or they can't figure out the fireplace, or want to know about grocery stores. And you do all that you can to get those questions out of the way ahead of time. But if I can get a week-long booking after day one, a lot of times I don't hear from people until they check out or not at all.
That's common. You're able to get 7-day bookings.
Yeah. Quite a bit. Yeah.
Wow. That's surprising.
I get a lot of weekenders too. So it goes both ways. Weekenders, it varies, but I actually do get a lot of people coming up to celebrate birthdays from Atlanta, and engagements and things like that, or anniversaries. And I was actually surprised by that, because I'll get a couple renting out either house that's 3 or 4 bedroom, and the other rooms just sit there, but they want that experience of being out in the middle of the woods and the hot tub, and just being able to hunker down and enjoy it, and go into town, do some hikes, all the other things that come with the area.
Wonderful. It's been a lovely conversation. Anybody have anything, any final words they want to add on, what to look for when shopping in Blue Ridge?
I'll just say you get rewarded for being unique here. Going over and beyond kind of what your neighbors have, and Lexis does that. I mean, with the Peloton, her nice amenities in her cabin. Again, it's not about buying that $12,000 lazy boy sectional. You know what I mean? That's not what I'm saying. But you at least visually, because you're no better than your listing, right? Somebody that's never stayed at your cabin, your property is no better than its listing. And if you're not able to kind of create some visual impact for people when they lay their eyes on your listing, it could be tough, because we do have a lot of cabins that, quite frankly, they look all the same. And when you hear people in any market start using the S word, saturated, it's simply because their cabin looks, or apartment or condo or whatever, looks just like everybody else's. And I urge people, when you go to buy, the more creative you are in my market, in the Blue Ridge market, the more money you'll make.
Wonderful. You guys are fantastic. Couple of rock stars. I'm happy to be in the same room with you. Lexis, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for being a client. We really can't thank you enough for believing in us and coming and hanging for a little chat today. So on behalf of the Short Term Shop and the Short Term Show, we'll see you for episode 3 in just a little while.